Man, peace to the gods. I like this blue and red. Okay, I see what we got going on, man. Real combination. Peace to the gods, peace to the gods. How y'all feeling, man? What's going on out there? It's explosive. I make the caption coffee, Diddy. I bet the Pope or Diddy or coffee. He said definitely coffee. Oh man, what a world we weave. Listen, I was doing my research about coffee, right? And how, of course, coffee comes out of Africa and some of the trade routes, out of Africa that ended up making it to Europe. But when the Moors had the coffee houses, they would set them up in a way where, and don't worry, this is mushroom coffee. You feel me? So even if you don't like coffee or drink coffee, or if you're a tea person, this is like the perfect in-between in the middle. It still give you the clarity, it'll give you the energy, you feel me? It'll give you that supercharge for your day without the side effects that you typically get from, these terrible coffees that people be drinking. So I'm glad we can make something that, can help amplify you without the detriments, but with all the benefits. Lion's mane and cordyceps. Now, back to the story. My man, you mind turning that radio off? Thank you, they ain't talking about nothing. The coffee houses back in, let's say, ancient Spain, Moors, you feel me? What they would do is they would have coffee specifically inside their coffee houses, which were beautiful. They were decadent. They had geometrical shapes. You understand me? It was draped. It was nice. They would serve them on these silver skewers. Ewers. These silver ewers is like these fancy, silver pots you would see. Real decadent. And there was actually a ritual, of course, in the way that you would pour it, that you had to hold it with a certain hand, and pour it with the right hand. And it was a whole entire performing ritual that you would do when you were pouring somebody coffee. So it was an exceptional kindness when somebody would offer you coffee in the house. But specifically, these coffee houses would get together and they would have intellectual conversations, such as about music, politics, philosophy, right? Culture itself, astronomy, mathematics. This is what the ancient coffee houses were for. And coffee was always connected to, a sense of intellect and regalness. And so this is why the Europeans, right, took on creating these cafes, because they always connected to a higher level of royalness and intellect. You understand me? And today I believe that there's a lost art of the reasoning of and the value and the connection to coffee itself, which is why we call our supermind. And which is why we're doing the coffee houses or the coffee clubs as we travel around, because we want to bring back that tradition, because that was a culture that was going through a renaissance. And the goal is to have a culture that goes through a renaissance, have connection, right? Imagine we get dressed up to go to the club, but imagine you get dressed up to go have a conversation. You understand me? That's stimulating while sipping something stimulating. Now, the ancient Africans or even the Arabians, they would call coffee the wine of Islam, right? Because it didn't get you drunk, but it still gave you high stimulation. So essentially, it was like a righteous drink that you could have that didn't evoke the spirits, but it did stimulate the mind. You feel me? So it was very powerful. And so whether you're thinking about, because this can be considered tea or coffee for really, because it's not actual from coffee beans. That's why we call it supermind, right? Coffee is just an easy way for people to understand it's something that's going to energize your body, right? And so they typically did not add sugar. They just add some water in it. And so we created this compound because it's helped grows, new brain cells, right? And new neural structures within the brain, specifically what we call myelin, right? So it helps electricity flow between the brain. It helps with memory. And then we have the cordyceps that helps with the overall body immune system. It fortifies your body. And it also is good for as a pre or post workout. You feel me? It help amplify the workout or to help increase the recovery. So you'll get a much quicker recovery by 4x times. And these are all studies that we went through. So we let people taste test it, and it tastes better than anything that's on the market. But specifically, I want people to understand that we're building a culture around this. We're building a society around this. So I'm happy for this brand and, to be a part of it, because how do you go? We don't particularly need a cultural revolution. We need a cultural renaissance. We need a period of enlightenment where we optimize the things that we do. But that can't happen because we need to make sure that we're communicating. Communication rules the nation. You feel me? And so once we optimize our communication, we start to optimize our cognition, which means we start to have traditions rooted in intellectualism, right? But currently we have an anti-intellectual culture. So being able to, sip some coffee, listen to some music, they would often they would play chess, they would listen to music, they would talk poetry, politics, philosophy, etc. That right there, to me, seems like a much better culture of late night hitting the club, you feel me, and having hangovers, and everybody is involved in the voodoo spirits of the club and trying to figure out why their life is in shambles and disarray and why they don't have no balance. And then people say, what do you do for fun? Like, the only thing you can do for fun is distract yourself. You feel me? Like, I think that the whole key to creating and bringing around this supermind culture is so that people is rooted in a renaissance where the culture is being elevated consistently. Just that good stuff. Just that good stuff. Just that good stuff right there. You feel me? Like, I want to have one of the coffee clubs, I want people to come in and dressed up really nice and fine linens and suits and clean. You feel me? Where it's just like, can we represent a civilized culture? I'm at that point now. It's like I get tired of repeating the same thing over and over. Like, I know crypto is booming right now, or it's trying to get back to booming. And people hit me up and, why you ain't talking about this? Like, what more can I say? What more can I say? It's like either you listening or you're not at this point. You want me to talk about the stocks, you want me to talk about the market, you want me to, well, maybe I would be willing to do that, but only within my community. In my community, I'm talking about people who would show up for a different culture to renaissance. People that I know is actually taking action and rooted in action. You feel me? It can't just be rooted in philosophy. It got to be rooted in action. Like, I've been teaching and preaching the same things for the last 10 years, right? Before AI was a thing that everybody is having a conversation about today, building their skills around. I've literally sat with people and gave them consultations, and they changed their whole life to become people that's in AI, right? And they was able to get them a career, right? When people were saying that, don't get into podcasts, and now you see the podcast market, has doubled, and now they're going to be offering people, television awards, because we're trying to show you, like, don't build it as just a regular podcast, build it as a TV show. Well, we're showing people how to build brands as communities and build a world around that to where it has a uniform, it has a taste, a texture, a sound, an enemy. Right now, everybody has to do that. We've always been showcasing the blueprint of what's to come for the future. So more than the words, it's the example that we try to set and amplify, because we need meta archetypes for people to see themselves through. So we always world building. So really, I'm an architect. You understand me? An architect of frameworks, of blueprints, of archetypes. And giving those blueprints out through either actual word, example, text, speech, and I want to see people execute, because we at the point now, and why I say it's not about a revolution, about a renaissance, because we actually have everything we need now. The revolution would be like, okay, let's get to a point where we can all have our own podcast and control the narrative. Well, that is here. Revolution would be saying that, okay, let's get to a point where we have our own currency that we can spend amongst each other. Well, that's here. The revolution is already here. The renaissance, the elevation of that, the enlightenment of that, the cultural optimization of the music, the language, the spirituality, You understand me? The personal development, the cognitive development. That's what we need to go through to where we have a period of flourishing already in the fields that we in. I was having a conversation with my brother Keenan earlier. We was working out because we was talking about these ideas, these family offices. And why come people in a culture don't support each other more? And why we haven't made a culture out of it, right? Where there's intention to where we don't see people and we say, I love what you're doing. We see people and we take part in what they're doing. It's completely different, right? When we take part in what they're doing, that means that we're going to amplify it. That means that we're going to fund it. My goal is to really have a renaissance in media. You understand me? I want to build out the high-level network. We're probably going to have to be funded by the people, you feel me, or get some private investors, because what I've been able to do in media, nobody is able to been do in culture, period. So if we can amplify that, then we can start scaling out that type of influence, which can create phenomenal impact. I see brands like Diary of a CEO. I see the Joe Rogans of the world. You understand me? The reason that they're able to do it is because of the phenomenal backing, the impact, and the funding that goes into it, to where you create a database to where the decisions are being made based on the analytics. And then you amplifying those decision factors so that you can scale the business, which is more so about scaling the influence, so that we can then control narratives, which saves lives, impact lives. Our greatest and most powerful base is storytelling. That's why the brother Ibrahim Traore was like, we need our own Hollywood over here. Because they've been controlling your image for too long. They've been controlling your story for too long. And now it's time for you to control your own. So yeah, it's time to go to a renaissance. That's what we focus on right now. A renaissance. Man, I appreciate you. It's not my coffee, it's ours. I just want you to understand that it's not about coffee. We have chocolates, we have oils, it's not about coffee at all. It's about a cultural renaissance, building community. You understand me? Amplifying culture, having high-level conversations. You understand me? Killing that low-level culture that has been created, to where a lot of times the only time we get together as groups of men and women is when we drinking, which means that there's no clear thought. We can't do that. We can't do that. Most of it, if we think about the memories that we have with friends and family and things of that nature, it's mostly over some drinks. So that means your spirit is not even in a clear space. So how you gonna build a culture off that? Don't work like that. Maybe it gets to a point to where, you know, you could be like the Italians and be sipping wine and all kind of days. But, you know, you have to understand your DNA a little different. We got so much drug use and abuse in our DNA and alcoholics in our DNA, and you don't know what amplifies those things. So we have to get to a clear space to where we can afford to do right and take on habits of other cultures, because currently we can't afford it because it's attached to too much trauma. So I think that we need a culture to where we're sipping on mushrooms together and we having intellectual conversations and coming together for a renaissance. And I asked the question, Pope or the Diddy? You know, first of all, you can comment. If you want to try the coffee, comment coffee or comment supermind. If you want to be a part of the renaissance. You know, it was always stated that you should always have some sort of drink in your house, whether it's tea or whether it's coffee, you know what I mean, to offer guests. And then you go through a pouring ritual, which shows a level of respect and appreciation. And a person typically would only ask for 1 cup unless they're in a deep stimulating conversation and you're giving them the coffee to help stimulate them more during the conversation, which is such a powerful idea. I love that. But the conversation around like the Pope and Diddy was like, yo, the culture is in a weird place to where psyops work so increasingly well. While there was a new Pope being praised, from Chicago, and they're trying to humanize him. He actually has the biggest sexual assault freak-off organization on the planet. Ain't nobody had bigger freak-offs than the Pope. I don't know, maybe Diddy is a Catholic.
Nah, Hugh Hefner.
No, the Pope. They ain't got nothing.
I'm saying the Pope. At the end, it's Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
And then Diddy.
Yeah. I'm just saying, man, that's some freaky stuff going on in the Vatican, and because they are able to police themselves, that nobody can police the Pope, because they exist as a sovereign nation that has papal bulls that say that they actually own the world. Not rule, own the world. It gets deep. So I just try to understand that, people that was thinking higher is, I just don't understand how you celebrate a Pope. How you celebrate a Pope, like, and Diddy was having weird ass parties with, that stuff that I don't even want to know this information. But I can tell you what's more dangerous is an organization that paid out over $4 billion to settle cases. $4 billion. And your parents and your friends and family are Catholics that don't ride hard against these things. They think other religions are their problem, but in the very organization that they in is a freak-off organization. Now, you think Jesus would have been for the freak-off organization? Jesus ain't got nothing to do with the Pope. I just wanted to put that on your brain cells. Jesus would not be cool with the Pope. I just don't understand how there's black Catholics. And I bring up stuff like this to just show you how deep the indoctrination goes. That's all I bring it up. Because obviously that brother was a freaky man. Freaky man. I don't want no parts of that. But if it's Pope versus the Diddy, Diddy ain't touching the Pope. You think how many bottles of baby oil you think the Pope got? He got that sanctified oil. Holy oils. You don't want none of them holy oils getting poured out. Wait a minute now. The Pope oil machine is crazy. They probably, matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Catholic Church owns baby oil. That's all I'm saying. I think they might own the baby. They might have been a sponsor. The holy oils that they be, don't they throw holy oils on people or something like that? Or is it just water? There's probably some oil in the water. You know how the government got government cheese? They got caves of cheese as a commodity that they put on their books, and they lend it out to certain companies and things of that nature. I think that's probably what the Pope and them do, the Catholic Church. They probably just got oil reserves. They probably just got oil reserves and then just be lending them out, sponsoring things. I just don't understand how we don't see the world for what it is. Like, aliens will come to this planet and think y'all are crazy as hell. Imagine being an alien coming to this planet and you get data, and they give you this data and be like, hey, here's this organization that has been found guilty of sexually assaulting hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of children. And the biggest story is this one man and his parties. Hey, what the fuck going on this planet? Y'all just confused. And at the same time, that's why I just find the juxtaposition to be so interesting. At the same time, the head of that organization is being praised. They're humanizing him, talking about what games he played. You know what I mean? And who his favorite team is. Bro, come on, man. Black people is lost. That's why when I see people that a black Catholic, I don't know if I can trust you. That's some heavy cultish stuff right there. Y'all talk about cults. That is a cult. You ever seen them dressed? Some of them Catholics get to dress in the Ku Klux Klan uniforms. Oh, it's some creepy stuff going on. Anyway, just wanted to put that on your hair follicles for today. You got to remember, we not the biggest freaks. They the biggest freaks. I just don't like the narrative to where, man, Diddy don't represent the rest of us. They always trying to paint black men as the biggest ones in the issues. Like, no. These people set up whole organizations. Paid out $4 billion plus. $4 billion plus. Can you imagine what they could have done with that $4 billion? I don't want y'all. I just try to understand these things. Your organization got to pay out $4 billion. Anyway, man, that's. I just wanted to put that on your hair follicles for today, man. You understand me? Just wanted to stimulate your brain cells with some critical thinking. The what's wrong with the world is who controls the narrative of the world, the stories that get told, the things that get amplified, the people that get villainized, while other organizations have complete immunity. Y'all think there's justice being played in this world. You just being played by the justice system. So the coffee is currently, we had sold out on my birthday, man. Y'all went crazy, bought it all. We had just restocked. And let me tell y'all the story. Yes, it's mushroom coffee. Y'all should try the chocolates as well. Hella good. So let me tell y'all the story on how the tariffs affected us. So what happened when we put an order in, because there's a certain bags that we use, super high quality, right? But they come from overseas, right? So when they put the tariffs on everything, it increased the price by 125%. So what ended up happening, because America and China was going through their negotiation phase, they had delayed the packages. Why? Because if they go to port and they accept them over the port, then that means that they have to increase the price for us 125%. Right? And that means that, imagine if a container full of products come and it's $500 million worth of product. Well, if you increase that by 125%, right? Now the price of that goes up another 500, 600 million, etc. So instead of trying to pay that, because companies, yeah, we got to experience the effects of the tariffs, given that we do international business. So it's an interesting lesson that these tariffs are not a good thing. If we're getting charged more at all, it's not a good thing. Because then when you get charged more, you either decrease your profit or you charge the customer more, which is killing small businesses. You know, so you have to understand and be cognitive of economic literacy, not just financial literacy, but economic literacy on how these things affect you when you're doing businesses. Yeah, man, it's cordyceps and lion's mane. Ain't nobody putting no portobello mushrooms in nothing. The lion's mane is a nootropic, means that it stimulates your brain. You understand me? So increased memory, clarity. If you ever had brain fog, can't remember a thought, you feel me? You have days to where your mood is low, your energy is low. It's going to affect your productivity and what you build, which is affecting your money. So no, we focus on charging up the brain power. That's why we have the lion's mane and cordyceps, you feel me, and the organic Arabic coffee in there. But when you try it, I promise you, it's for people that don't even try coffee. It's for tea people. It's for people that want to stimulate their brain and go through that renaissance with us. But I've just made it to my destination. I appreciate y'all grabbing your cup of consciousness with me. Peace.